Practically, the book, I would say, is mostly biographic, and is describing my activity, my experience, and my own opinion about Kyrgyzstan during the last 20 years. So I would say that the book is not just about Kyrgyzstan, 20 years of independence, but Kyrgyzstan seen from the eyes of a foreign investor that have been in that country for 18 years. And is above all how I see the development of Kyrgyzstan in these last 20 years, the lost opportunities, the changes, the metamorphosis of Kyrgyzstan. So I start in Moscow in the construction business. I stay a couple of years in Moscow, then I move to Almaty, and finally I end up in 1994 in Kyrgyzstan to rebuild, to reconstruct an hotel that is the former Hotel Kyrgyzstan, that was the biggest hotel of Kyrgyzstan. And then I transformed that hotel in a first-class international hotel, and I was able to sell to Hyatt International. So at that point, instead of leaving the country, and moving to another place as a developer, I decided to stay, and I got involved in another large visible investment, that is the acquisition of Tsum department store. And the Tsum was, I would say, the second large project where I was involved in Kyrgyzstan, and from there I never moved away. I still live in Kyrgyzstan, I have my house, I have my office, I have my business, and this is what makes things very strange to many people, because after going through so many, I would say, embarrassing type of situation, but I'm still in the country. I would say that people did believe in very strong changes. Many of these changes didn't take place, but the country did change. So today, after 20 years, I would say that the country has lost a lot of opportunity, and people are still unsatisfied. There are still expectations that have not been answered during all this period. So Kyrgyzstan is not anymore the Kyrgyzstan of 20 years ago. The privatization made many people rich, very rich. But the privatization didn't bring to the lower class those benefits that the people were expecting. It means that the results of the privatization went into the hands of an elite, of a selected group of people. I would say that those people that were in the 30s, and were already in a very high position during the communist period, they were those that have been forming the new elite. And it was an elite made of people that were smart, were capable, but were also very much, I would say, greedy. And the result is that that elite is still governing the country, because they were young. They were between their 30 and 40 years of age in 1990. So they are 50 years today, or 60. So practically they were capable people that were able, to control the power. And then they went on, with the system that was democratic in the form, but not democratic in the substance. What it means, privatization? Privatization is simply, technically, is the transfer of the power of the ownership of some property from the state to the individual, to the private hands. But how this privatization was made, this is something that has to be considered. At that time, the Russian ruble was very much inflated. There was a huge inflation, and buying a company at book value in rubles, it was like a joke. So practically, they were selling companies at book value. But the book value was inflated about 1,000%. So those that bought with $10,000 a company that was worth millions, of course they found themselves overnight very rich. the education of the people is Russian. So at a certain moment, a lot of people talk about a sort of independent Kyrgyzstan from Russia, but I don't think that these things will really be possible, at least for the next 10, 20 years. You know, but Russia is, I would say, a very tolerable and smart type of controller. You know, this also happened before. You know, before the independence. You know, Kyrgyzstan got a lot of freedom. You know, from the Soviet Union, mostly because it was far away. It was a border country. You know, of the Soviet Union, but also because the Russian or the Soviet, if you want, at that time, did understand that there is a certain type of culture, certain type of tradition that you cannot just overcome overnight. So today Russia is only trying to put control over all the former CIS Soviet countries, and is doing in a smart way, is more in a more political oriented way than before. So today Russia do understand that China is there, you know, and China is an economic power that you cannot just simply delete. You know, they are there. They will be there to stay. So from the Russian point of view, they want the country to be politically oriented toward Russia.